Hey there, terrific teachers and techies out there. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about some Google Meet options that you have when you're running a session, and a lot of common questions that have sort of come up, and hopefully, this will explain a few things for you. So, this is a Google Meet that I have initiated through my Google Classroom. I would recommend that you do the same. It just gives you a little bit more control over certain aspects of a meet than running it through, say, setting it up through Calendar. So I just want to mention that as I run this, and then hopefully I will cover all the basics here. So first things first, along the top, you're going to notice, and I've talked about this in other screencasts, these are just two extensions that I have installed here. This one's called Nod. This is not part of a standard Google Meet. This one here is called Google Meet Grid View. This grid view is going to be coming in an update for Google Meet, so it will be a standard feature. So I have this enabled here. So if you don't see those in your Google Meet, that's just because I've added these extensions. And like I said, they're in another screencast that you can see and view and find out how you can add those. So kind of working my way around the Google Meet. Um, Down the bottom here, this is just the name of the meet or the from my Google Classroom. And opening this up, there's an sort of has the info there, and here are attachments you can add. Now, I will say I did say that I did this through Classroom. Adding it through a Google Calendar, you can add attachments to your meeting. So if there are documents you want to sort of have students view or whoever the participants are in your meeting. Now, with that though, because I did it through Google Classroom, I can have a little bit more control, as I said. So the meet will not start until I join this meeting. Whereas through Calendar, it is possible that students could join if they have the invite, join the session before you get there. So that's why I prefer to do it through Google Classroom. Going along the bottom here, these are just your mic and your camera options. I have these turned off just for feedback purposes, and that's to end the call. Over here, you can turn on your captions. So this is handy, not just from a UDL perspective, but also sometimes you just might have somebody that has some poor audio going on that day um, in the session, and maybe the captions will enhance that experience for them. So when you turn that on, it should pop on there. Mine's being a little delayed. I'll have to see what is going on there while it's not turning on. But that should pop on when you go on there. Over here is your presentation mode. So when you click on that, you do have the option to present your screen. So right now we're just all participants in this meeting. So I can present my entire screen at a window. And then there'll be a third option that'll be coming as part of another update, which will say your tab. So you can present a tab as well. So I don't have that there yet. That's just if you want to share your screen and want to demonstrate something for students. Before I get to the bottom, these three options on here, I'm just going to go on the top here and mention something here. So this button here are your participants. So as a teacher, you can see I have people in my session. I can open up this drop-down menu. I cannot unmute participants, so they have to unmute themselves. This one here you'll see a lot. You can pin to screen. So what that means is normally as people talk, they sort of pop up on the screen. You can pin somebody so they're always sort of at the focal point for your own personal session as you're watching right now. And now I have the option to remove. So if these were students in my class, I could remove students. Students would not see this option. Well, they would see it, but it's grayed out. So they cannot remove one another. Now, saying that, if you do remove a student, they could click the link that got them here initially and join back again. But that is an option as well. But removing is also something I sort of encourage is when you end a session, you don't want to leave before your student just so they're not hanging around and having their own meet afterwards. So I always encourage if students are sort of not left the session when it's over, ask them politely to leave. And then maybe if they're sort of still lingering around, sometimes they just leave their device and not do it intentionally. You can remove them from the session, and then I would end the session myself as the teacher. Up here, you have your chat, so you can put things up here in the chat. Now, we'll say something about the chat. If you're writing something, hit my mic there. If you're writing something, I find that anyone who joined after that session, so at that point when you wrote something, so if you were the first one in your session and you wanted to put some links in there to websites or put some notes, if you put that in there and the students joined afterwards, they would not see those comments in the chat there. So people only see the chat from the point they enter. So just keep that in mind if you're popping things in there at the beginning of a Google Meet, and maybe not all your students are in there. Those that come after you've typed anything in would not see that right away. And then down along the bottom here, these are your options. So you do have a few options for your Google Meet. You can record your session, which is really great, especially if you have students that maybe weren't able to attend. Maybe you're demonstrating something you want to be able to post in your classroom. So when you record something, that just goes directly into your drive. There'll be a folder there called Google Meet or something similar on those lines, and those will all be saved in there. You can change the layout, just sort of how your screen looks. So I mentioned I am in grid view, so my layout looks a little different, but if I did not have grid view, you would have a few options here to choose from. Also, in these options, you'll see there was the closed captioning again. You can go full screen. You do have a few settings here. So I find we do get a lot of questions about mics not working, maybe audio or video not working. So you can tinker around with some of these options here. You can run a test as well. So that's always handy to do if you want to make sure your speakers are working, your mic and video and things like that. And the last thing down here that you can do is you can actually make voice calls from a Google Meet. So if you ever need to call someone, a parent, maybe a student, you don't want to use your personal phone and reveal your phone number, you can use Google Meet to do that. Now it does come up, I find, with us here in Nova Scotia as an Ontario number, but it is an option for you to call out and not use your phone. So just want to give you a brief overview of some of the options in here. We do get some questions about what some of these things do, and in terms of students, can they mute each other? Can they mute the teacher? Can they do different things? Also, I should mention the recording option. I can record. Students in our GNSPES domain do not have that option to record. So only teachers can initiate that, and only teachers can initiate Google Meets. That's another thing to keep in mind as well. Students cannot initiate Google Meets from student to student. So I hope this helps. Anytime, reach out. And thanks so much for watching.